All right, Mr. Bill, we got some roses here, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what is the first thing we need to do when it comes down to pruning roses?
Well, to start with the tools, the big older stuff, just to facilitate easy cutting, I use the heavy lopping pruners.
Okay.
I do most of mine with this middle size.
I like that too. It's a pretty good size.
And which is easier on my hands.
Okay.
And then the hand pruners, you know, I use the hand pruners.
Okay.
Good gloves, because
Right.
these things will eat you alive.
Yes.
Good gloves, and then I've got this handy little stool that I can sit on and get in and do what I need to do.
Okay.
The first thing I usually do is look for dead wood. This is dead here at the bottom.
Okay.
And so I just, close to the cane, the main cane, I just cut that off. And as you can see, it's brown and it's not live, healthy tissue.
Right.
Now, if I can get this out of there, here we go.
Now, once you make that cut, I mean, do you actually clean those off before you make the next cut, or?
Well, when I usually wear a
stuck
blue
in.
jean
Yeah.
shirt, typically in between bushes, I'll use a cleaner and I'll sterilize my pruners from bush to bush.
Sure.
And from customer to customer.
Okay.
But one bush, it's either got it or it doesn't,
Okay,
so I
yes.
don't. So I'll just do one and then I clean. Okay, now I'm looking, now this, it's big and healthy at the top, but right here you can see it's starting to get brown.
I see it.
And it's dead, so just to facilitate, I'll just cut it as close as I can and I'll cut it off.
All right.
Here's a small one, which is kind of a small cane. I'll get rid of that. And I'm opening the bush up as I go. Anything smaller than a pencil, you try to get rid of.
So get rid of it. All right.
I'm just going to take this out to open up the center of the bush.
So why do we need to open it up though? That's to get the air moving through and.
Air moving through, black spot is your
Right,
biggest enemy, and you have to spray, which is a fungicide.
Sure.
And if you've got air going through, it doesn't just sit and sit in there, and anything, if it's too close, you're going to get disease.
Okay, gotcha.
If you get rid of the dead wood and the little small stuff, it just kind of, it gets easier and easier to figure out where you are.
Right. You can see it pretty good, huh?
You can
see
see,
what you're doing.
you try to get rid of, now keep in mind I'm gonna go down to about, depending on the bush, the bigger bush, if I left it here, it's gonna have more blooms with smaller blooms. Now, if you cut it down to 12 inches to 18 inches, you're gonna have fewer blooms, but they'll be bigger blooms.
size. Right.
So if you're wanting to take them in the house, you may cut them down a little more hard. If you want a lot of blooms, you just leave them out just for garden rows.
Okay.
Now here's another one that's kind of going in the middle. I'm gonna take it out.
All right.
You always clean up after yourself, because if you don't, you come by here 2 or 3 days later and get on a knee to look at something, and those prickles and thorns will get you.
They jump up and get you. I got you.
This little small growth that's not gonna do anything, I take those out.
Okay. So again, anything that's growing on the inside, you definitely want to take those
I try
out.
to make everything grow out. Now, find a good example. Right here, example. I cut right above where the leaf axle is, and we're a little late because everything's leafing out. Ideally, you want it where there's nothing there. But when you see these leaf structures at the leaf axle, if I cut above this, that next cane's going to go into the bush.
Right, I see.
If I cut above this one, it's going to go the same way this is.
Okay.
So I kind of manipulate Mother Nature. I try to cut where this new cane, where I cut it off here last year, I cut it so that it would grow out and not in.
Right, I got you. Got you.
Now,
Makes sense.
that's
Now
a-
this probably took years of practice, right? To be able
well,
to
it
get it down the way you want
takes, and the first time I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But if you mess up, it's just like a bad haircut. It'll come back,
Come back.
and you just and you learn from your mistakes. This will come up and be out of the way. I'll just kind of
to.
take that off.
Okay.
This is in the middle. It's a little harsh, but you have to kind of teach this. I'm just going to take this whole big guy out.
Okay.
And it just opens up the bush. And the more you take off, you're going to put that energy into the canes that you have left.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to look for a bud eye. There's one facing out towards Chris. I'm going to cut it back that direction.
All
And I kind of think about what I'm doing. I may have them a little taller in the middle of the bush, and then on the bottom where they're away from each other, and you'll have a nice form.
Okay.
Here's a crossing cane.
Yeah, I see
This
that.
is a big healthy
Rubbing.
cane. This is a little smaller, so I'm gonna sacrifice
Gotcha.
that one. Now here's some dead wood.
Okay.
And the more you open it up, the more you can see. Here's some dead wood. I'm going to take it
Oh,
out.
it is. It's hollow.
And then, let's see, I'm going to take this to there. I'm going to leave this bush typically a little taller than most. I found a bud eye right here. I want it to come out, so I'm going to cut there. I'm going to face this. Because there's a bud eye here and the next cane will come out.
Now, could you tell us bud eye? I mean, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, on the cane, where this comes out, you've got a shot for 3, here's 2 right here. Let me cut this off. Like right here, where a leaf is going to be, you cut it right above that. It's either going to come out as a cane or it's going to come out as a leaf. And you've got 3 shots to get a cane to come out of that.
Okay.
So a lot of times if I was going to do this, I would just break that
Just
off.
clean it off. Okay.
Because I don't want leaves, because it's a little late. I don't want leaves. I want a cane to come out.
Okay, gotcha.
And typically this time of year, I try to do it before they start leafing out. You can see this is starting to leaf out.
Yeah, that's
now
a
it's
lot.
already leafed out. And I'll break this off and then hope that I'll get a cane out of it instead of a leaf.
Okay, I got you.
All right, over here, there's a little sticking out on this side.
I see it.
Later on, that'll have a leaf on it. In the spring, everything starts from the top and works its way down. So where I prune here, the canes will come up from the top. You'll get some from the bottom, but most of them where I prune, that next cane like this is going to come back that way.
Okay.
This is coming in the middle and I see it's bothering Chris. I'm just going to take
It's
it
bothering
down
me.
real low.
All right.
And you're like, oh no, I've got this big. Well, once I cut it, and let's just say I cut it here last year, the new cane's gonna come out. And you want your bigger canes at the bottom instead of up here at the top.
Okay.
Because at the end of the year, like some of these, they'll be 10 foot tall.
Wow.
That's questionable. Is there a hole in there, Chris?
There's a hole. It sure is.
Well, let's just,
Ah.
all right, here's the culprit. You see where a leaf borer, not a leaf borer, cane borer,
borer,
don't touch that. That will, and that's why you use the Elmer's glue. After I prune, I'll come on top of these and put just a dab of Elmer's glue, not a lot, just a dab, and that's just enough. It's a little old critter, and he'll drill and lay his eggs, and he might go a ½ inch, or he might come all the way down. So if you go ahead and do that, you'll save a big cane like that.
So it can be saved though at the end of the day.
It can, and
Can
what
be,
I typically do is I'll just cut. See,
Yeah.
he went down
He went
pretty
down pretty
deep.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let's just see how deep he went.
Getting close.
But you want to get the healthy white pith in the center. When you do cut it back, as bad as that looks, and I'm gonna
getting
stop
better.
there, it's starting to brown up some, then you'll have a healthy cane come out.
Okay.
Now, this is a new cane, which you want to do. It's not a basal growth, which comes at the root graft. I'm gonna, wish I had eyes in the back of my head. I'll go back and double check that. I'm gonna cut that. The next year, it'll shoot a cane, well, through the summer, it'll have a cane and a bloom, which it takes about 40 days, depending on the size of the blooms. Once you cut that, in 40 days, you'll get a new cane come up. It develops a cane, and then you'll get a bloom.
Okay.
And then in 30, 40 days, then prune it back. Now I see where this is gonna go this way, and I can see the little red dot. I'm gonna cut just typically about 1/4 inch. Ideally, if you do it at an angle and run the water away, that's fine. I usually, sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. And ideally, a bush is 8, 10, 12 years old. You want to take a big healthy cane like this, cut it out in hopes of getting a newer cane, because sooner or later it's going to die.
Okay.
So you get rid of it, you get rid of all that energy that's spent to that, and you're putting it in a new cane, and then that way you keep your bush invigorated.
All right, Mr. Bill, look, we definitely appreciate this pruning demonstration that you've shown us today.
Well, thank you,
much.
Chris.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please click the subscribe button below.